Hi everyone, it's Mary and welcome to Marissa's Life. So today I am doing a video, another episode of my houseplants back to basics, and this time it's on soil and soil amendments. And I'm also going to give you an update on my Hoya Kerrii propagations that I did about a month ago. Currently sitting outside my deck because maybe like a lot of you, I'm already getting a bit of cabin fever with all the social isolating and self-quarantine that we're doing. So I'm spending some time outdoors just to get some fresh air and just to get out of my room. Hope everyone is doing okay with the self-isolation and self-quarantining. Hope nobody's sick. And I hope you're getting all the support and help that you need if you're in any situation that is currently difficult. I'm just like sending out a lot of positive thoughts and good vibes to everyone out there. We will make it through this, and let's just continue to be kind and patient with each other as we go through this terrible thing that we're going through right now. But just to take your minds off a bit, let me talk about my houseplants and the soil that I'm going to use for my houseplants in the spring. But just to talk about soil and potting soil for plants. So potting soil normally is composed of three main components, which is the organic matter, the amendments, and the nutrients. So for the organic matter, it's usually peat moss. Right now, Coco coir is becoming more popular because it's more sustainable, but most potting mix that we'd buy in the stores, it's like peat moss, pine barks, or mostly tree barks and processed forest materials. And then the second one for amendments, that's usually perlite, vermiculite, pumice. So those amendments are usually added to encourage drainage in our soil, especially since most of our houseplants are potted and not planted on ground. And the third one is nutrients. I'll have a separate video talking more about nutrients, which is basically the fertilizers that we add to our soil and give to our plants, and they can range from synthetic to organic to homemade. And for me, mostly what I would use is earthworm castings or organic slow release fertilizers like the one I'm about to show you right now. Over here is organic potting mix that I got from Lidl. This was about $3.99, which is frankly a lot cheaper than most potting mix that you can buy in like hardware stores, in Lowe's or Home Depot. So if you have a Lidl near you, go to it, and they currently sell potting mix and garden soil right now for a really good price. So this one is 16 quarts for $3.99, which is a good price. So this one is organic. This one is made in Georgia. So in Georgia, this product contains like pine bark, Canadian sphagnum, peat moss, processed forest products, limestone, fertilizer, and worm casting. So most potting mix that you would buy in stores would be like this, whether they're organic or non-organic. It's just the organic part is usually, I think, with the nutrients for the most part, but not with the actual mix. But I might be wrong about that. So this one is Coco coir. I did add a little bit of perlite to this already because I was using it for starting seeds indoors. This one is now my preferred medium for if I were to create my own potting mix instead of buying a pre-made potting mix, just because Coco coir is more sustainable than peat moss and is actually a lot more cost effective if you just buy a block of Coco coir and then make your own amendments to it, especially if you are potting up a lot of house plants. I would just recommend buying Coco coir and making your own amendments to it. And for the soil amendments, you'll have like a lot of stuff that is just added to improve drainage. For me and for a lot of houseplant enthusiasts, we just tend to go towards perlite because it's the ones that's readily available and it's cheaper and it does the job. Whether you use pumice, vermiculite, it's just really just a matter of preference. I tend to go with perlite. I know some people would have issues with perlite, and I could share you some later when I show you the Hoya Kerrii update, but it doesn't bother me that much because this one, like I said, is cheap and more accessible than the other stuff, which can get expensive as well. For nutrients, even though you are using a potting mix, people will still add their own nutrients to it or add more fertilizers. Like for me right now, I'm trying out this plantain from Espoma, which has an NPK ratio of 5:3:3, which is good for houseplants, although it might be a little bit high for some houseplants. I would probably cut this in half when I'm adding it to my soil. And this one is from feather meal, poultry manure, bone meal, alfalfa meal, green sand, sulfate potash, potash magnesia. So this is just like a bunch of organic fertilizers combined into one mix. So I'm trying this one. Last year I tried earthworm castings. I really liked that one, but I couldn't find earthworm castings. And I found this, and I really need nutrients right now for my seedlings. So I got this one since this one also came highly recommended. And as far as homemade one, I have some crushed eggshells right here, which I will use for repotting the Hoya Kerrii, because Hoyas like their soil a little bit sweeter, and the eggshells helps with that. Okay, so now I'm about to show you the updates on my Hoya Kerrii, and then I'm gonna repot them using my preferred soil mix. So the first one that I'm going to show you is the one that has been growing in the Ziploc bag with ordinary potting mix. So, okay. So this is about, I'd say, close to a month of growth, and you can see how much it has grown. And this is the one with the stem. It's just have a lot of root growth, but no like new growth of leaves yet. So this one's amazing. And this one I wasn't so sure if it will actually grow roots because it's single leaf cutting, but it kind of did a little bit over here on this corner. So this one I'm probably just gonna keep in a Ziploc bag a little bit more, but it did grow roots. It's just like really small right now, and as you can barely even see it, but it's right over here. So this one I'm probably gonna keep in here a little bit more and let it grow a bit more roots. And this one is the one in the sphagnum moss. So I never had any issues with the sphagnum moss propagation for any of my plants, but it would have sometimes developed algae on top when it's exposed to a lot of light. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, and it could also a chance of pests growing in the sphagnum moss. I've never experienced that though, but for one time with the Cebu blue POTHOS. So this one has grown a lot of roots as well. I can't take out all the sphagnum moss because I don't want to damage the roots, but this one has also grown a lot of roots. And the last one is the perlite. So as you can see from the perlite, it's more apparent. You can see it has turned green because algae has formed on the perlite. It's not a big deal, at least for me it's not. I don't see any effects it had in the propagation, but just know that it will happen. And you can just wash the perlite and you could reuse them. And so this is the growth of the roots and the one that's growing in perlite. So I think the one that did best, I think it's a tie between the one in the Ziploc and the one in the perlite, and then the next one is the one in the sphagnum moss. But all of them have like pretty good root growth, and the single leaf cutting is the slowest one, but I was not surprised with that, and I'm actually surprised that it actually grew at all. So yeah, so now we're going to repot this using my preferred potting mix for the spring. Okay, so I'm going to show you my current potting mix. This is just Coco coir. I'm gonna put 2 cups because I'm only going to use this for the one that grew in sphagnum moss, and in perlite, the one that has been growing in potting soil, I am gonna repot it in potting soil. So just a couple of that, and then I'm gonna add some perlite to it. I would say 2 to 1 because this is a Hoya, but I'm just eyeballing it to be honest. But I'd say 2 to 1 Coco coir to perlite, and then I'm gonna add some of the plantain. So this one is probably, I'll add like this much, so maybe 2 teaspoons of it. So yeah, for this one I'm also gonna add probably this much eggshell, so another maybe 2 teaspoons, close to a tablespoon, and I'm just gonna mix that up. So that's pretty much it for my spring potting mix. I'm gonna keep it as simple as possible, and that would usually work for most of my house plants, and I would just adjust the amount of perlite depending on what I am potting up. But for most of my house plants, this kind of mix works perfectly well. So I am putting it in these containers because I'm out of nursery pots. So this one doesn't have a drainage hole, so I'm just going to be careful with watering it. I definitely do not recommend doing this, but like I said, I ran out of pot. Okay. I might need to make more mix for the second one, but we will see. So that is the second one, and then I'm going to pot this one up using the potting mix just to show the difference, and since this one is also has been growing in a regular potting mix, so I just want to keep that way. All right, so with potting mix, people are sometimes very iffy about the brand, but honestly, any brand works. It's just up to you to amend it if you're not satisfied with it. But there's really no point in buying expensive potting mix, in my opinion. For like this one, as you can see, it's very different from this mix. It has a lot more tree barks and stuff, but this potting mix doesn't have perlite in it. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of perlite into this, and also a little bit more of nutrients, which is the planktone. Although this one already has earthworm castings in it, so just want to put a little bit more because it's not that high. When I look at the NPK ratio of the potting mix, it was just barely a 1:1:1. So that's why I'm not iffy with adding a little bit more nutrients to this potting mix. But yeah, and yeah, I mean, the reason a lot of people are iffy with, I'm gonna let that plane pass. So the reason a lot of people are iffy with certain brands like Miracle-Gro, because they say they find fungus nests in it. And that is going to be true for almost any potting mix, to be honest, because they tend to pack this one moist. And there's really no way telling, especially if they're using organic matter, if there's fungus gnats eggs in it. And so when it is introduced to warmer temperature, when you open the bag, you will see fungus gnats in them. So the way to prevent that, if you would like, if you're not sure, is to just sterilize your potting mix with hot water and then just, let it cool down, and then make sure you squeeze out the water so that when you're potting up your plants, not too moist, and you just want it saturated but not like soaking wet, and then you can use that potting mix and it will be fine. So this is the one that is in a regular potting mix. And all this tree, because they had stems on it, it would grow new leaves. So this is going to be like full-fledged plants, and they're not just going to be single leaf. Okay, so these are the 3 propagations from my Hoya Kerrii. This is the one that was growing in perlite, now in my Coco coir potting mix, and this is the one that grew in the sphagnum moss, and now also in my Coco coir potting mix, and this is the one that was growing in a Ziploc bag with potting soil in it, and now it is potted up with also potting soil with some of my amendments. But yeah, so these 3, I'm not planning on keeping all of these 3. At least 2 of them are gonna go up on my Etsy, so by the time you watch this, it might be up already. So if you're interested in purchasing them, the link is down in my description. And I would also have a lot of houseplants up on my Etsy shop real soon. And I'm also going to be doing a giveaway. I might do a giveaway for the single leaf cutting of the Hoya Kerrii that is still propagating. I want to make sure it actually grow roots. And I also might announce additional giveaways on top of that, just to thank everyone that has subscribed to my channel lately. I really appreciate all of you joining me in my plant journey, and I appreciate you commenting and liking my videos, and of course subscribing to them. I really appreciate that. Okay, it's about to start raining, so I have to head back in. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the second episode of my houseplants back to basics on soil and soil amendments, and I also hope you like my update on my Hoya Kerrii Propagation. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, I hope you subscribe. I come up with houseplant and sustainable lifestyle videos every week, and if you haven't yet, go check out these videos up here until my next one. But until then, I see you, I appreciate you. Please stay safe and healthy out there, and have a plentiful day, everyone. Bye.